Hello and welcome to another edition of WNHS. We're coming to you from all across Northern Calvert County at the end of the first semester of this school year. I'm Brandon Little.
And I'm Anna Reinhardt. Today on our show, we'll hear students' reactions to the Capitol riots a couple weeks ago. We'll see what gifts Northern students got over holiday break. We'll get a look into the lives of students getting ready for online school. We'll hear from students about their New Year's resolutions for 2021. And we'll take a look back onto our favorite shows from our childhood. Now on to our reports. Jaden?
Weeks ago, Americans witnessed an event that would be studied in their history books for centuries to come. Anna Reinhardt, Addison Hatfield, Louisa, Paige Plater, and I reached out to staff and students to hear their point of view of the incident.
No matter what, even if it kills you, remain a free man. Die on your feet. Live on your knees.
Wednesday, January 6, 2021 will go down in history as a day that Americans will always remember. As Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, journalists made their way downtown to cover the story that rocked the nation, much of the world. Local and news stations gave live updates as the rioters broke into the Capitol and moved through the halls in search of the Congress members. Photojournalists, cameramen, and camerawomen risked their lives bringing us chilling images from the incident, as well as broadcast journalists who described the event as it will happen, some which are attacked by rioters. News stations across the nation continue to cover this event as more details about the attack are revealed.
I think President Trump's initial response to the situation was appropriate. He sent out a video and he said to keep it peaceful, which, despite what people think, he was also saying to keep it peaceful at his actual rally that caused it, right? It's not going to stop the media from putting words in his mouth, but he did want to keep it peaceful. So Trump was not directly responsible. He never wanted for them to go storm the Capitol, despite what people think. He never told them to do it. He wanted to keep it peaceful.
I think it was ridiculous that people even got close to being in the building, and then they actually were in the building. People stole stuff, invaded people's privacy, like being at their desk. They stole files, like secret government files. They vandalized things, destroyed glass. It was just a lot. It was ridiculous. If the Black Lives Matter movement, protest, or whatever went in there, they would have all gotten shot at. That's all I have to say about that. They would have gotten killed. They wouldn't have gotten the same treatment that they got. I think they should impeach Trump because of the factor he had in his supporters thinking it was okay to storm the Capitol. Or they were terrorists. They were on government property and destroyed and stole government properties. They need to be put in jail. That's it. They need to be put in jail. Because they were in the middle of signing it off and declaring that Biden was the next president. And they were trying to basically stop them what they were doing. But they failed, of course. And yeah, they just tried to attack our democracy and what we stand for. They knew something like this was going to happen and they weren't prepared. Why was it so easy for them to be inside the Capitol and did all they did? Even if that wasn't happening, you think they would have more strong, often declaring that Biden was the next president, and they were trying to basically stop them what they were doing, but they failed, of course.
But I think he's maybe responsible for it a little, in that in this country we have innocent until proven guilty, and I feel like the claims that the election was stolen from him, well, they might have been true, but he couldn't completely prove it. So he was kind of spreading information that he couldn't completely prove. And so it's not directly his fault, especially with him, not even attending Joe Biden's inauguration. That did not help to solve the division. So it's not Trump's fault directly, but it is, I think, indirectly his fault to some extent.
They knew something like this was going to happen and they weren't prepared. Why was it so easy for them to be inside the Capitol and did all they did? Even if that wasn't happening, you think they would have more stronger security guards and just in general. They could have done so much better. He basically said storm the Capitol. He basically gave the okay. He was like, I know it's fair. He basically was like, I feel how you feel. I know how you feel, whatever. And like basically let me win. He's basically trying to tell his people, I know I should have won. You agree. Go take it back for me. Do all the dirty work, if that makes sense. Like, he's totally at fault for this. All the things he's posted on Twitter as the president, like, he led to this whole thing.
So my point of view of the storm at the Capitol building is that I'm just speechless. Like, how can Trump supporters go into the Capitol building, climb up the Capitol like they're Spider-Man just because Trump lost? That's just mind-blowing to me. And BLM protesters, if they did that, they would have way much more consequences than what some Trump supporters had. Why didn't they get shot with rubber bullets? Why didn't they get tear gas as much as the BLM protesters? But I know they should definitely be charged.
Personally, I'm scared that, like, what's supposed to be one of the most secure buildings in the country can be infiltrated with little to no
It's only a matter of time. Justice is coming.
resistance. How I'd like to see government officials react to this would be to declare white supremacist groups as terrorist organizations, first off. Secondly, I thought that they reacted immediately afterwards, well, by like continuing to certify the election and like just being unfazed and sending a message like this, we're not gonna be intimidated into stopping our democratic process.
I do feel that the rioters that stormed the Capitol should be charged. I feel like you have to be held accountable for your own actions. And also, it was the destruction of property. I mean, that's a crime, so you need to be held accountable for it. I mean, if you're going to break windows and run off with podiums, I do believe that you need to face the consequences. So the rioters that were violent and were there should be charged.
It made me kind of more reluctant to call myself a Trump supporter because, you know, of course not all Trump supporters went and rioted, but that image might still be put on me, and I don't want that to happen, even though it probably will. They certainly shouldn't react by impeaching Trump, especially when it happened. He was only going to be in office for 2 more weeks, but, you know, now he's already gone. You know, if the point of impeachment is to remove him from office, he's already out of office, so it seems so petty to just impeach him, and impeaching him just for revenge is definitely not right.
I don't think that President Trump is at fault for what happened. I do believe that he had a pretty big influence over the individuals that decided to go riot at Capitol Hill, but it was the individual's choice to go and do those actions. So I can't say that he can be held accountable for what each individual did at that riot, but I do believe that he had a pretty good influence over them. I mean, he even told them, go storm Capitol Hill. So, but I don't think that he was necessarily at fault.
Meantime, while everything was happening, Trump was in the bunker like he always is, and watching and almost encouraging this to happen into the Capitol.
The last thing I'd like to see is for Congress to make a push using this to give DC statehood status, because there's an argument to be made that if DC had their own National Guard, then they could have secured the Capitol much faster than they ended up doing. I absolutely think that the rioters should be charged because, first off, they trespassed. Second, they stole a lot of stuff from people's offices even. And third, they tried to intimidate Congress people into not certifying the election. They should just be charged for all of that. Neither police nor the president handled the situation appropriately at all. So the police, they didn't engage, which I understand because there was way more rioters than there were police. But the taking selfies with the rioters, that was incredibly out of line.
Yes, I do believe that it was an attack on our democracy. If you think about it, that it really just uncovered that there are a lot of faults in our democracy. They kind of need to be addressed.
I do feel like our democracy was attacked, and it's incredibly scary what would have happened, because they ended up getting into the chambers. Like, what would have happened if our representatives had not been able to get out at that point.
If people break the law, I do believe that they should be charged to the fullest extent. If you don't, it puts a message that that behavior is acceptable and tolerable, which it's not. And so long as you broke the law, that was your punishment.
I personally don't agree with the people that decided to storm the Capitol. Joe Biden already won the election, so I don't know what storming the Capitol would do to change that. In the long run, it didn't change that. Joe Biden still won the election. But I do think that as Americans, we are allowed to peacefully protest, but that was not a peaceful protest, so I can't agree with the actions and the motives that the people that stormed the Capitol took and did.
Personally, I find it very frightening that what happened. It's very scary to think that people would feel that passionately that they would break the law and even risk their lives doing that. And it really makes clear that the divides that are in our country that have already been shown, it makes it hard to argue that they're not there.
No matter what, even if it kills you, remain a free man. Die on your feet! Never live on your knees!
This new way of learning has changed everything regarding school for both students and teachers. Online school means something different for every person, from what time everyone gets up to whether they wear sweatpants every day. We wanted to know whether or not students get ready for school each day now that we are virtual. Brandon Little, Jay Powell, Kamaya Elam, Josh Green, and I have reached out to students to find out more.
Online school morning routine normally begins pretty close to before my first class of the day begins, and I'll wake up and I'll log on to that class, which will be either AP Language or AP Biology normally.
Good morning, my name is Michael Constantino. I'm a junior at Northern, and to get ready for school in the morning, I wake up, brush my teeth, and take a shower. Then I sit at my desk and get on school.
So for the first question, how do I prepare for school? I would say that I really don't prepare for school. I get up like 10 minutes before school's about to start, and I lay all my notebooks out of my bed for those classes that I have that day. And then I get my laptop off my nightstand and log on to Teams like right before school is about to start and listen as best as I can. But there's so many distractions that it's kind of hard. So I wouldn't really say that I prepare at all for school.
I first get up, then I sign into my Teams meeting.
For me, I found what works is to just do the assignments when they're assigned so that I don't forget about it, because if I don't do it right then I don't remember it, and it's just kind of easier for me to just get it done so that I don't have to worry about doing it later.
I get up and I eat breakfast while my class is going, if I'm being honest, and then I normally get dressed either after that class or after my second class of the day, and that's pretty much it.
Another thing that I found useful is to write everything out in a planner of what I have to do so that I can flip to whatever the date is and see what has to be done so that I know what I have to focus on and get accomplished for the day, which has been helpful for me.
And I get breakfast and get dressed, and then I go back upstairs and get into the Teams meeting.
Though New Year's is already past, it's never too late to set your goals and resolutions for 2021. That's why Bailey Deschane, Skylar Shaner, Christian Colbert, Elena Stewart, and I reached out to staff and students to ask them what their goals and resolutions are for the new year.
One thing I learned from 2020 is don't waste your time, especially with all this free time.
Well, it taught me a lot of things, but narrowing it down to 3, I would say it taught flexibility with the changes and protocols after we went into quarantine because of COVID. Taught me gratitude, the fact that I have my health and that my family stayed healthy when so many people were getting sick. And it taught me DIY. So I'm really into improving my home through DIY. That was mainly in the summer when I had more time and couldn't go anywhere.
2020 taught me a lot of things. I mean, I learned how to use various streaming software and hardware, so if I ever need a second career as a YouTube streamer, I guess I can try that. I learned that building a 7,500 piece Lego set in under a week will actually give you bruises on your thumbs and fingers. And I also learned that even when everything goes nuts in the world, when it seems like it's a dark place, there's still good things to be found. I mean, global pandemic, everything else going on, and we welcomed a new baby into our house in June. How could I not take joy in that? He's awesome.
Something that 2020 taught me was to cherish the time with my friends that I had, because you never know what's going to happen.
What 2020 taught me this year was that you need to maintain a really good friend group, good core group that you can feel comfortable around.
2021 has taught me to be very patient when it comes to achieving my goals, but it has also taught me to appreciate the little things that we have in our lives, because it can all be taken away right in front of our eyes.
2020 taught me really, you gotta be flexible and you gotta be ready for whatever is gonna come, which would include quarantine or COVID.
What's something 2020 has taught me? Nothing is what you think it is, and nobody's who you think they are.
I definitely have learned not to take the small things for granted. Before the pandemic happened, I never thought about the small things that I could do and never really thought that they could be taken away from me.
Something 2020 has taught me is that anything is possible. Something like losing your senior year, which you think could never happen, might be right around the corner and you don't know it.
2020 was a really bad year, but it's taught me that we need to be more hopeful because things will get better eventually. They haven't quite gotten there yet, but things are already starting to improve.
I don't think 2020 is going to get better. I don't think it's going to get worse.
Wow, that's not a very high bar to clear in some ways. Of course I think it's going to be better, but I think we have to make it better. But that's what New Year's is all about, isn't it? It's all about looking at the new blank slate of possibilities and saying, I'm going to make this coming year better than the one I just had.
Do I think 2021 will be a better year? I mean, I don't really know. We don't know, you know? But I hope so. Only time will tell. But there's one thing for sure. I think we can all, just have a good mindset and be ready for anything,
I think that 2021 is going to be a worse year than 2020 based off of recent events, political things happening in the world, and more with the pandemic. I think that 2021 is going to be a worse year than 2020.
I think 2021 will be a better year. The vaccine is already out. People are already starting to get the vaccine. I just look forward to normalcy in 2021.
Yeah, it's going pretty average right now. I feel like it can't go down from here. Like it can't be any worse than last year.
Then 2021, will it be better than 2020? Absolutely. It's a new year.
I think by the end of the year, things will be better.
Every year is better than the other. At least that's how I see it, and that's how I approach it.
I think it will take a long time for things to go back to the way they were.
This year I'm gonna try to work on doing more things that I like to do that make me happy.
My New Year's resolution is to improve myself every day, no matter what. No matter if it's working out, perfecting my crafts, reading, improving knowledge, it don't matter. Just bettering myself.
Then, what do I look forward to in 2021? And that is continuing my goals.
My resolution this year is to become more independent from my parents, so learn more cooking, more life skills that I could use down the road when I leave the house.
My New Year's resolution is to take more pictures and videos so we can look back on them in 5-10 years, even a year, and remember everything we did together.
One is to work out more because, like probably many people, we've put on a little weight being sedentary and quarantined. And so I'm trying to get myself moving and work out more. And I think that's the main thing. Continuing my DIY is also a New Year's resolution.
February isn't just known for Valentine's Day or for being the last full month of winter. This month is Black History Month, and every year we're reminded that it's so important to learn about Black history and understand what Black people have been through. Today you all can test your knowledge with this Black History Month trivia put together by Peyton Russell.
It's something we all can relate to. As we get older, we part ways with those old childhood TV shows we adored. Looking back, some of these shows seem like collective fever dreams, but as soon as we see a picture of it now, we suddenly remember it, or wonder if we actually watched this show, or if it's just a figment of our imagination. Callie Shia, Betsy Slayhuber, Blake Brown, JoJo Hensley, and I took a trip down memory lane and asked students about 5 distinct forgotten shows.
Timmy is an average kid that no one understands.
It seems like every year on social media, there's a trend where forgotten childhood shows are suddenly remembered and talked about with the world. There is so much joy in rediscovering these shows, and it's always a topic that everyone is willing to discuss. Some of these old shows feel like fever dreams, and others just feel nostalgic. We decided to go back in time to talk about some shows and this trend in general.
Welcome to the Blue House.
I don't think the show was forgotten so much as everyone just kind of pushed it to the back of their minds because they watched it when they were like kids. I don't remember a whole lot about the show, but my mom was like, oh, you loved it as a kid, so I'm taking your word for it. But I watched it when I was like 2 or 3, I think.
The Upside Down Show!
I remember loving how like the hosts of the Upside Down Show made like kids feel like they were part of the show. Like you were being very interactive during the whole episode, so it was really cool to feel like I was part of something happening in the television. And I think I was around 4 or 5 when I was watching this show, I think it was also around the time where I was like super obsessed with like PBS shows. I think this show was forgotten along with like a lot of other childhood shows because it just didn't last very long. The one episode I can really clearly remember watching, like I think a couple of times, was like the haircut episode where they had like super long hair for some reason and they like went through like the steps of like getting your hair cut at a barbershop, and I just thought it was like hilarious because their heads look like mops.
Interrupt this program to bring you Courage the Cowardly Dog Show!
I always loved Courage the Cowardly Dog just because it was literally like so funny, and it had like the best like weirdest situations, and I love how like Courage always babbled when he was worried or he wanted to say something.
I've never watched it, so I think it would be forgotten because it's an older cartoon show. I think the younger generation would not like it compared to the newer shows because it is older.
I watched that show like my whole childhood, and I still watch it because it's just really enjoyable.
But the trend where people like share and like reminisce about forgotten shows on social media, I love it because it allows people to kind of come together in a way and be like, oh my god, like I remember that too. And I don't know, I think it's really nice to reminisce on the past occasionally.
Being like a little kid and like being super focused on what was coming up next on like television and being like excited for the next episode instead of like being like worried about like things like I'm worried about now, like what people think, what am I gonna do in life. Like it was just such a simpler time and I didn't really focus on anything but like playing with toys or going to like pre-K and just having fun.
Timmy is an average kid that no one understands.
Jamie. Sorry.
Do
Poor
it.
Elena is like responsible for my baby right now.
All right, I'm ready. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Hannah, stop. Hannah, stop. I literally have 2 sentences to read. All right, just like.
Think of something sad.
Or Michael. I'm kidding. Sorry. All right. Hello, and welcome to another edition of WNHS TV.
And that's all for this edition of WNHS. Patriots, we've made it halfway through the school year despite the challenges we've faced with this virtual environment. Now that's something we can all be proud of. I'm Anna Reinhardt.
And I'm Brandon Little. Remember to follow Northern Journalism on Twitter at NHS Patriot Press to stay updated on all things NHS. That's it for us. Tune in soon for another edition of WNHS. We'll see you then.